NXT New Year's Evil. Not that it was a bad show, just that the show was disappointing. It did not deliver what it promised. I was not happy about that, but otherwise, the show was fun. It was fun. We're going to go through it. Let's talk about my disappointments first, because these things are kind of in the news and notes category. They teased Andrade twice on this show. They delivered him 0 times. That was very disappointing. Now, they didn't say, hey, Andrade was going to be here, but they did say, oh, yeah, the LWO, they were going to have a fill-in for Dragon Lee, who is legitimately stuck in Mexico. And then they said, oh, an NXT champion will come and watch the main event. And neither one of those guys ended up being Andrade. And then they changed the main event, which also was very disappointing, by taking Ilya Dragunov out of the match when they could have just told us last week that he wasn't going to be in it. So I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of the old bait and switch. Not a fan of that at all. All right, let's talk about what did occur, by the way. Lyra Valkyria defeated Blair Davenport to retain the NXT Women's Championship. I'm surprised they did this, but at the same time, I'm kind of not surprised. The match was solid enough. The turning point was Blair Davenport trying to throw her Kamigoye knee and end up kneeing the announce desk, and that kind of took her out of it. And from there, she ended up losing the match. After the match, Lola Vice tried to use her championship match cash-in from the breakout tournament, only for Tatum Paxley, who has been stalking Lyra Valkyria, to jump out the bushes, scare her off, and beat them up, her and Elektra Lopez. And that allows Lyra Valkyria to survive. So, okay. Blair Davenport is... I don't know why she's not the champion yet. I don't know what they're planning to do here, but okay, I'm willing to give it a break. Now, Blair Davenport did have a confrontation with Nikita Lyons later, where Nikita Lyons snuck up behind her and said, oh, yeah, now would be a good time for me to take you out like you took me out from behind, but I'm not going to do that. The only way that I can get, close to the title is by taking you out in the ring. Blair Davenport laughed and said that she missed her opportunity, and that the only way that she can be beaten by Nikita Lyons is if Nikita Lyons attacked her from behind. So they kind of was looking like they were going to fight, but they actually kind of set up another match later on down the line. Tatum Paxley then told Lyra Valkyria later in the show that as long as she's the NXT Women's Champion, all is right with the world. Apparently she is obsessed with Lyra Valkyria, but we don't know why. Oh, very weird. Lola Vice is likely going to be the one that's going to win the title. If Blair Davenport is not going to win it, then Lola Vice almost certainly will. So it was fine. It was a good starter. I thought the match was a little short, but at the same time, I don't think I've ever complained about a match being too short. In the history of this channel, have I ever complained about a match being too short? I don't think I ever have. Kelly Kincaid, who now is she's taking Mackenzie Mitchell's job, if I remember correctly. She's actually quite good. She was actually a wrestler in Ring of Honor, the Ring of Honor before Tony Khan bought it. I forgot what her name was. I think it was Rebecca Quinn or Robin Quinn or something like that. And they did like this almost Superman-like thing with her where she was doing backstage interviews, and that led to her wrestling. She was getting bullied by the female wrestlers and stuff like this, and that led to her actually wrestling. That was a really good gimmick. And then she was like a Daniel Bryan-like underdog figure in the Ring of Honor women's division. It was a pretty good gimmick. I was hoping they would do something similar in WWE, but apparently not. At least not right now. So she's just doing backstage commentary and stuff now, announcements and, whatever, interviews. She is the one who announced that there will be no NXT championship match because Ilya Dragunov is not medically cleared. Oh, brother. I thought this was a red herring. I legitimately thought, okay, well, they say that now, but then they'll turn around and, Dragunov will force the issue. He'll make him let him fight, but no. They didn't do that at all. Instead, Trick Williams is backstage. He's disappointed. He says that he wants Ilya to get back. And then Carmelo Hayes says that Ilya is just scared. He heard that you was training with me and he got scared. So no apparent reason, just random Tuesday, Grayson Waller is there. And he just happens to be in the locker room with these guys and he starts mocking them about, them getting beaten by Ilya Dragunov and they were going to lose anyway. And then he kind of called Carmelo Hayes Trick Williams' valet, which offended Carmelo Hayes. The end of this thing ended up with Carmelo Hayes challenging Grayson Waller on Trick Williams' behalf and then putting up Trick Williams' championship match. Now, this was because Grayson Waller saw himself as the original Iron Survivor, being pretty much the only Iron Survivor. He only accepted the match with Trick Williams because the championship match was on the line. This leads us to the main event of the evening. Trick Williams wanted to do this alone. He didn't want Carmelo Hayes in his corner. Carmelo Hayes starting to get really annoyed with that idea that he wants to do things on his own and not have Carmelo Hayes in his corner. So Trick Williams goes out there. He wrestles the match by himself. Grayson Waller they have a pretty good match between the two of them. It was hard for me to get into it because you threw it together at the last minute and there's no heat on it. So I was kind of like, let's just get to the end of this thing, Like, there's got to be something that's going to happen after this that's going to make up for them baiting and switching when they could have told us before the show started that Ilya Dragunov was not going to be able to wrestle. But that was... They were going to do an NXT champion was going to come out and watch the match. That was the tease. So they have the match. Carmelo Hayes comes running out of nowhere. I don't know where that Trick Williams t-shirt that he had came from, but it just vanished. It like flew out of his pocket or something. He came ringside with, even though he was told not to. This distracted Trick Williams, and then Grayson Waller goes outside of the ring because he's preparing to do his running, rolling thing. And while he was out there, he ended up running into Kevin Owens, who punched him in the head, threw him in the ring. And Trick Williams hit his jumping knee for the win. So Trick Williams won the match. Is still the number one contender. He won nothing. Carmelo Hayes kind of distracted him. But I was highly disappointed with this. And it's hard because I like Grayson Waller. But I don't like Kevin Owens at all. And I didn't see the purpose of him being there outside of, I guess they wanted to get some heat on Kevin Owens so that Theory and Waller can interfere in the match on Friday, rather. I'm about to say Saturday. But they was going to interfere anyway. So I don't know, man. It's kind of goofy, but Trick Williams won. That's good, at least. They're still dragging this Trick Williams, Carmelo Hayes thing along. I don't know. Don't really like it. If let's get let's not turn it into the devil story. Let's get to the end of this thing. Okay. Other than that, it was fine. Fine enough match. Riley Osborne, the very, very tiny Chase University student, I don't know where he's from. I forgot. I don't know if he even said it, but he says he wants to be the next European star like Finley and William Regal before him and all these guys. And that's kind of why he joined NXT, why he's in Chase University, why he joined the Breakout Tournament. Then his opponent in the finals of the Breakout Tournament was Obafemi. Obafemi is from the heartbeat of Africa, Nigeria, the great nation of Nigeria. It's like every African on the roster is Nigerian, with the exception of Kofi. Everyone who has, pretty much direct lineage to Africa is Nigerian. They couldn't find any South Africans, no Ethiopians that want to wrestle. You couldn't find any Egyptians that want to wrestle, for Christ's sake. No Moroccans. Couldn't find anybody from Sierra Leone. Anyway, he says that strength is expected in Nigeria, and he is going to be the true power of Nigeria or something like that. And this leads us to the Breakout Tournament final, which was Obafemi versus Riley Osborne. Before the match, Thea Hale met Riley Osborne and said that she was going to be cheering for him. She's going to be ringside watching him. And He was very excited about this. They did a high five, and she marked out and started saying, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god," and talking about how she's never going to wash her hand again and all this. I thought she was maturing as a character. I guess they gave up on that, and now she's going to go back to just being a crazy teenager. So she's completely marking out over this Riley Osborne guy. And so they have the match, and it was longer than I expected it to be. And Obafemi did way more selling for this tiny man than I would have expected him to do. But Obafemi did win the match, which to me it's a +1. I didn't expect it, to be quite honest. I wanted it very badly, but I really didn't expect it because NXT, in recent years has been hesitant to put over bigger guys. So here we go. Obafemi, he's great. He's tremendous. We need to get this thing rolling as quickly as possible. He has charisma. He can speak. He looks like a psychopath. He's a gigantic man. He's a big guy. So I'm all in. When it comes to Obafemi, I'm all in. Yes, he needs some time to develop. It's only like his third match, but let's keep the ball rolling. What, did you put the belt on him yet? I don't know. Maybe wait a little while on that. But I can see him being the champ. I ain't got no problem with that. You know what? I am 100% down for Obafemi versus Braun Breaker. I am 100% down for Obafemi versus Ridge Holland. I'm down for it. I'm also kind of down for Von Wagner. Matter of fact, where did he go? It's time to get some big guys in here, man. It's time to get some big dudes moving and shaking this joint around here. Obafemi wins. That rules. All right, match 5. Ariana Grace versus Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez actually wins the match with the Pop Rocks. Then Ariana Grace gets in her face and says she has a problem and she needs help. She was yelling at Roxanne Perez that Roxanne Perez needs help. So Roxanne Perez attacked her after the match and put her in a crossface or something like that and was laughing the whole time. The best thing about this is Booker T is very disappointed in her on commentary. Basically saying, this ain't what I taught her, dog. This ain't how we do things in the reality of wrestling, dog. And eventually, because Roxanne Perez was being a douchebag, the referee reversed the decision. Therefore, Ariana Grace actually won the match. And Roxanne Perez, they're threatening to turn her heel because the crowd actually booed her when she attacked Ariana Grace after the match. Now, Ariana Grace is an irritant, but ultimately, she's not the kind of heel that doing this kind of thing to her is going to get you the heat because she is disingenuous. Like she's trying to say all the right things and do all the right things, but ultimately, she doesn't mean it. She's an elitist. But Roxanne Perez is been leaning towards being a heel for a while now. The crowd turned on her actually about a year ago. So they're actually kind of late on turning her heel, but they're actually trying to show some fire out of Roxanne Perez. So, okay, this kind of reminds me of when Liv Morgan was doing the hardcore thing that she was doing. That's kind of how this feels, where it feels kind of forced. At the same time, it's all right because, the girl, she needs to do something for Christ's sake. All right, next. Ava Raine announced herself as Shawn Michaels' assistant and then announced the Dusty Classic next week. And then there was a lot of skits making matches making teams rather, where Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker agreed to be a team. I hate that idea. I hate that idea so much. I don't know what to do with myself. They're bonding over the idea of both of them being smug, arrogant assholes. That's going to be their name of their team. SMA. The smug, arrogant assholes. The SMA. Anyway, I don't know. Axiom and Nathan Fraser agreed to make a team. Nathan Fraser continues his gimmick of talking bad about people behind their back and then them hearing it and then threatening him. This week it was Malik Blade and Idris Inofe. Now he didn't say anything about them specifically, but he was talking about how the established tag team division wasn't good enough and how they need to step it up and all this kind of stuff. And these two guys are like, man, what the hell are you talking about? So I like these two dudes. Like these two dudes have not been getting a lot of opportunities, and it's not right. If we're being honest, it's not right. So hopefully this thing works out for them. I don't think they'll win it, but it would be nice if they got an opportunity. It would be nice. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention that Thea Hale, after Riley Osborne lost, Thea Hale was thinking of ways of trying to cheer him up for losing. And, she was thinking about sending him a text or getting him a gift or something like that. And out of nowhere, Andre Chase and Duke Hudson show up, and they're talking about the Dusty Classic. And JC Jane all of a sudden says that she's going to assume control of Chase University, and she's taken over. And she says that Andre Chase needs to focus on his debt. So she's taking him out of the tournament and replacing him with Riley Osborne, which is very exciting to Thea Hale. She likes the idea of Riley Osborne and Duke Hudson being a team. And she basically starts talking about how she's going to come up with ways to earn money so that they can get out of debt and she can lift Chase University to prominence. I think we need to make up our mind about whether JC Jane is a heel or not, because it seemed like we had something going with JC Jane corrupting Thea Hale. Now it's almost like that has stopped, and now JC Jane is just like a regular part of this roster, this team, and that's not what it's supposed to be. Like this is, I guess it makes it more interesting when she ultimately does turn Thea Hale, but they have again seemingly gotten far off that path. I think we need to get back on it. I like Thea Hale when they were about to turn her heel, and she's apparently have forgiven these guys, even though they're in debt and they screwed her over and all this kind of stuff. She seems very forgiving, and maybe she shouldn't be. I don't know. OTM basically threatened Stax and Tony D'Angelo. They won a championship match. The funniest thing they said about this is they connected at the bottom like the letter V. You guys might be family, but you ain't connected. You ain't come from where we come from. We connected at the bottom like the letter V. And I wrote the letter V just to memorize, and I was like, these niggas are geniuses. These naysayers are geniuses. He's some really smart, he's really smart brothers. Tony D'Angelo and Stax agreed to the match, and then they also introduced Adrienne Rizzo, who they call the Riz. The Riz handles the biz. She's the glue of the D'Angelo family. She is their business manager or something to that effect, but she talks like she's straight out of a Bronx Tale. I mean, she has the heaviest accent I've ever heard on another human being. Like, it's Jesus Christ, what an accent. It's straight New York Italian. Oh God, it's hilarious, but it's something. Anyway, for some reason Joe Gacy was in Tony D'Angelo's trunk. I think if we don't talk about that, we can just completely ignore that. I feel like, we don't need to talk about that too much, do we? I didn't think so. Kiana James is hanging out with Izzy Dame. Izzy Dame is apparently scarecrow. Like, she's very tall. She starts talking about how she used to hit volleyballs and bitches. I'm like, oh, another volleyball player. I'm pretty her and Charlotte got something in common. Where do you get all these volleyball players from? Like, yeah, I went to college and played volleyball on a volleyball scholarship. Like, I'm pretty sure you have to be athletic to play volleyball. But for Christ's sake, why do you get into wrestling? It's not even a contact sport, is it? Anyway, Kiana James said, in this business, you either here to make friends or to make money. She got a friend. Now it's time for her to make some money. And she starts talking about how Izzy Dame is a triple threat. She do pretty much everything. And she was very excited to show the world who Izzy Dame really is. And from there, that was the end of that. I like this idea. I don't mind Izzy Dame. I want to learn more about her. She seems to have some attitude, some personality. I think I said that before. She's really showing something in terms of the portrayal of her character. All right, they did Ridge Holland. They did a sit-down interview with Ridge Holland, where basically he talked about all the mishaps in the ring that he's gone through, which basically is his own injuries. how he got injured before War Games several years ago, how he destroyed both his legs, how he got his nose broken day one, 2022. Then his potential injuring of Ilya Dragunov the week before, completely skipping over the Big E injury. They didn't even mention that. My only hope is that they're saving that, and they don't want to talk about that. But basically, they're saying that Ridge Holland has come to NXT for redemption, and that he had no malicious intent when it comes to injuring Ilya Dragunov, and that he's not there to take anybody's career away from them. He's there to prove who Ridge Holland really is, and to go through the roster and prove to his family, who is relying on him, why he sacrificed them, drugged them all the way to the States. And this was good, except for he was dressed like a very normal guy. I'm kind of tired of normal guys. It's time for, look, you don't got to go Seth Rollins starting wearing women's clothes, but just looking like a suburban dad on television is not going to get you over. I don't know what more to say, especially since you're Ridge Holland and he's a gigantic meatball. Please look a little bit more dynamic. Stop looking like your wife dresses you. But the story is very strange. Very strange story, because they're trying to get over that Ridge Holland is kind of a nice guy and bad things happen. But it's not that he does bad things on purpose. It's just that kind of stuff happens. And look, a lot of people have been saying, like, why do this gimmick? Ridge Holland, legitimately injured Big E, and they act like just the worst thing that ever happened in a wrestling ring. It's not. Again, Owen Hart used to wear Owen 316, I just broke your neck shirts. And people legitimately injuring somebody else has been used in storylines all the time. In this situation, they're trying to make Ridge Holland sympathetic by saying, he's injured people. He's also been injured in the ring. Every time things look like it's going to be on the up and up, disaster strikes. Almost like he's Charlie Brown, like he's a big muscular Charlie Brown. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. And plus, unless you deal with the Big E thing head up, I don't think people are really going to get over it, nor forgive him for what's going on here. And I think ultimately there is room to lean into it after, he fails to really redeem himself. I can see that he's probably going to end up leaning into it and becoming like the new crippler. But overall, it was a fine sit down. I just felt like it probably wasn't necessary. And I know it makes other people nervous and upset. And I say to you, I need you to mature a little bit. This is pro wrestling. Anytime a guy hurts another guy in the ring, he's trying to make money off that. And in this situation, that's what they're trying to do. All right, Gigi Dolan and Cora Jade had a locker room argument. We don't need to get into that too much. They're probably going to have a match next week. But the big match, the match that really delivered on the show, even though I didn't like the finish, Tiffany Stratton is defeated by Fallon Henley. So Tiffany Stratton has to be a ranch hand for Fallon Henley per the stipulation of the match. The match was fine. I thought the match was no problem. I just didn't like the finish. So Tiffany Stratton goes outside the ring and gets a chair. And she's going to get disqualified if she hits Fallon Henley with a chair, which, is a loss. And it makes no sense that she would be a smart girl like her, would go and try to get a chair right in front of the referee. The referee snatches the chair, and in snatching the chair, that's basically a distraction. So Fallon Henley hits her with a shining wizard and wins the match. I'm okay with Tiffany Stratton being sort of the ranch hand for a while. That works. It actually is going to be very entertaining because I know the vignettes are going to be fun. This is a long history of stuff like this. The Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Henry O. Godwin. Pig. What was it called? The one with the pigs, the hog pen match. Then you had Jimmy Garvin and Von Erichs where, I think David Von Erich beat Jimmy Garvin and then it turned him into a ranch hand. So he had to go and pick bales of cotton. And he had, I believe was it Baby Doll with him? No, Sunshine. I think that was with him at the time. That was fun stuff. Tiffany Stratton could be a fun character in this role. So just adding elements to her character and she's actually going to go through with it. But you got to make the vignettes fun in order to make this thing worth it. Because at this point, I'm feeling like Tiffany Stratton would be better off at the top of the card wrestling for the title. But you want to put her in a personal feud, that works too. And it also is a very good thing for Fallon Henley because she got a big win out of this. So this is going to be fun. And this was one of the things on the show that I was looking forward to. And I kind of expected that Tiffany Stratton would lose because it sounds like the kind of stipulation where the heel loses. So overall, NXT was fine. It wasn't terrible, but it had the ability and it had the potential to be a much bigger show. And it felt like it was going to be a much bigger show. I mean, going into it, you figure Andrade is going to be the fill-in. Oh, shit. That's what I should have talked about. The LWO versus the No Quarter Crew or whatever, right? So the No Quarter Combat, whatever, I don't know what the hell they're called, Drew Gulak and his boys, they lost to the LWO, and the partner was Carlito. Carlito got a huge reaction, and look, I love Carlito, but I was like, usually I'll say, man, where the hell is Carlito? And now the one place I didn't want him to be is the one place he fucking shows up. So they did a really excellent slingshot spot with Joaquin Wilde that I'm pretty sure you've seen it on Twitter where it's just, he's in the air just hanging. It looked tremendous. What a spot that was. If you're going to do a spot where everybody's going to cluster around and wait for somebody to fall out of the air, they should be getting that kind of air. He looked like he was shot out of a cannon. It was a great spot. Carlito ended up spinning Apple into Drew Gulak's face after the match, and the LWO wins. So, for the first time in forever, probably, Carlito was a little bit of a letdown because we were expecting Andrade, but it was a huge reaction. Nice little switch there. Match was not even bad either. They will, of course, put over Charlie Dempsey that he's over in All Japan, and apparently some All Japan wrestler is kicking him in his rib cage very hard right now. I'm pretty sure you can probably find clips of it out there. He's been kicked in his back very hard over there, so he's learning a lesson or two. But that was the only disappointment. Two disappointments on this show, two big disappointments. And again, I hate to be negative on Carlito because I really like him. But, this seemed like a spot for somebody else. And then, of course, the switch of the main event is very frustrating. And I don't understand the reasoning for that. Unless Ilya Dragunov is legitimately injured in some way. I don't understand why you would do that and bait and switch everybody like that. Overall, though, I think the show was fine. Instead of it being sort of a pay-per-view quality NXT, it just felt like a sort of beefed up regular episode of NXT. And it could have been more. It had the opportunity to be more notable, a little bit more in terms of headlines, but they decided to play it safe. But so it was fine. Next week should be fun too, but they were very conservative this week in how they put the show together. And I think that with the potential and the expectations being very high, which is not their fault completely, because I know all of it is we were in our brain had the idea of Andrade being there, and they never said he was going to be there. And of course, it's not our fault that we were expecting Ilya Dragunov versus Trick Williams and it didn't happen. So that definitely needed to be fixed, and they definitely should do better when it comes to putting that stuff together. But overall, it was fine. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you guys later.